Welcome to Hatfield's 2019 Candidates Forum. I'm Joe Lavallee, your town moderator. Each year, this program is intended to give candidates a chance to inform town members of their platform, position, and intentions if elected. This is to educate, not separate. First, however, it's always good to share a little about our town. The population of Hatfield is approximately 3,200 residents, with just 2,400 registered voters. We occupy about 16 square miles. We have one of the smallest and finest independent public school systems in the state, as well as some of the best farmland on the East Coast. Settled in 1661, we follow what is called open town meeting, which is our form of governance using town rules since 1670, when our first town meeting was held just over 345 years ago. To learn more about our town, please go to Hatfield's various websites. A lot of our history is well documented and continually added to. Each candidate will have up to 10 minutes to make a statement. The contested positions up for election this year are for Planning Board and School Committee. On the Board of Selectmen, a 3-year term, Diana Szynal is running for a return to the board. For School Committee, 3-year term. There are 2 candidates running for this position. They are Brian Moriarty, running as the incumbent, and Danielle Stanisewski as the other candidate running for the same position. Please vote for one. The Board of Health, a 3-year term. Robert Bob Osley is up for re-election. Elector under the will of Oliver Smith, a 1-year term. William Bill Betzel Jr. is running for election. On the Board of Assessors, a 3-year term, Stan Pitchko is the candidate for re-election. Under the Library Trustee, a 3-year term, Amy Glaklowski is running for re-election. On the Planning Board, a 5-year term, there are 3 positions open for the Planning Board, each with different terms: 5-year, 3-year, and 1-year. They are as follows. Christopher Smith is running for election, as is James Jimmy Tarr, for this 5-year position. Please vote for one. For the 2-year term is Mike Poshik, and Slysz is running for the 1-year term unopposed. On the Redevelopment Authority, a 5-year term, E. Larry Grossman is running for re-election. And finally, on the Cemetery Commission, a 3-year term, Robert Bob Flaherty is up for re-election. There is one open position with no candidates. The Hampshire Council of Government, a 5-year position. Write-ins are always welcomed, allowed, and accepted. There are no ballot questions this year. To the candidates, we thank you for your commitment and candidacy to our town government. It's your participation that makes our town operate at its best. It is most welcome and greatly appreciated. Lastly, I would like to again thank John Novak for putting this forum together each year for us to better know our candidates. Now, here are the statements for candidates running for the various boards.
Hi, my name is Stan Pitchko, and I am seeking another term as assessor for the town of Hatfield. For those of you who don't know me, I have lived in Hatfield for virtually all my life. I am happily married and have raised 3 children in this community. You might have even seen me ride my motorcycle around town. For the past 9 years, I have served the community as a board member, providing individual care and a watchful eye for the community. It's that time of year again when the elections have come. I ask for your support to be re-elected to the Board of Assessors. I thank you for your trust and confidence that you have placed in me in the past, and I am asking for your support again. Please vote for Stan Pitchko. Thank you for your time and consideration. I ask each of you to come to the town meeting and please vote. Thank you.
Thank you for taking your time to learn about the candidates in this upcoming town election on May 21st. So you can make informed decisions based on a candidate's skills, positions on issues, and experience. My name is Christopher Smith, and I ask for your vote for Planning Board to determine the future of our town, both in how it grows and how that growth will affect our town's character. Because this is a forum and not a debate, it is hard for you to know, other than what the candidate presents, the differences between them. That is to say, I will show you from past examples how my opponent and I have very different approaches to resolve town governance issues. First, let me share with you how my opponent, Mr. Tarr, and I are similar in many ways. Both of us have lived in Hatfield for over 35 years. We both live on Prospect Street. Our children have attended public schools, and we are both owners of small business located here in Hatfield. It is also true that neither of us has been a candidate before for Planning Board. However, when it comes to town service, this will be Mr. Tarr's very first town government experience, whereas I have been appointed and elected to numerous boards and committees since 1980. I began town service as a member of the newly formed Energy Committee in 1980 that got a $68,000 state grant for a solar heating system that was put on the then new Smith Academy, saving the town thousands of dollars in energy costs. Again, in 2011, as the chair of the Energy Committee, the town was awarded a $131,000 in grants as one of the first green communities to improve energy efficiency in the town buildings. Hatfield continues to benefit from those GCA grants. Hatfield was also the first Western Mass town to be part of the Solarized State program that gave residents extra incentives to put solar systems on their homes. In 1983, as a member of the Industrial Development Committee, we worked with the 1987 and 2003 master plans to create zoning bylaws to encourage economic development that attracted the town's largest taxpayers, C&S Wholesale, Brockway Smith, and others, while keeping the Hatfield's residential and farming character. I was elected in 1996 to the Board of Assessors, serving for 5 terms. During those years, I worked to preserve our farmland and open space through the Chapter 61 tax programs, established the Elderly and Tax Aid Committee, and in 2012, upgraded our assessing software and outsourced our property tax valuations to Patriot Properties to assure fair and real market property assessments. This change is still used by our assessors today. There are numerous other boards and committees I have served on, such as Open Space, Cultural Council, 325th Parade, Finance Team, among others. But other than the Energy Committee, I'm most proud of working on the Redevelopment Authority. When I was elected in 2015, the HRA endeavored to save the former Center School, a beautiful historic landmark of our town center for more than 100 years that was slated for demolition. This happened after many years of failed attempts to find an acceptable reuse for the building that retained the back playing fields for public use. When a proposal for condos in 2008 was narrowly rejected by 2 votes, the town looked at town offices and even a charter school that proved unsuccessful. The HRA went back to the idea of condos, but this time instead with my zoning bylaw experience, proposed 55 and over housing, which required much less parking requirements. Sorry. Then working with our open space committee, we were able to preserve in perpetuity the playing fields for public recreation. We went on to find the right developer for the project that is currently in progress, and in the end, will return the former school to our tax rolls, yielding an estimated $45,000 a year. Instead of costing you, the taxpayer, $500,000 to demolish the building, plus added annual grounds maintenance costs. Although my opponent has no prior town service, he has cost you, the taxpayer, many tens of thousands of dollars in potential tax revenue and renewable green energy. As a founding member of the Protect Hatfield anti-solar group, they hired a very expensive attorney to block a lawfully sited solar farm, which was to be located in the rear of his property. And although the property met all setback screening requirements, he simply didn't want it. This type of group is called a NIMBY, or Not in My Backyard Mob Rule organization. They do not care about state or town zoning bylaw, and in the end, not only cost property owners their rights, they usually will cost you, the taxpayer, potential tax revenue. Without getting into the whole story, a NIMBY is the reason it costs 20% more a year to operate our present sewer system. If there is a plus to NIMBY, towns will work to improve zoning bylaw to address their issues. In 2013, the Planning Board and the Energy Committee passed new solar zoning bylaw with approval of many of the members of the Protect Hatfield group. Today, some 6 years later, another solar farm is seeking a special permit in North Hatfield. This developer appears to be complying with our zoning and is willing to meet the conditions set by our current planning board. And yet, we see the same attorney who represented Protect Hatfield trying to stop it. While my opponent will likely say his reason for running for planning board is a newfound dedication to serving our town, I believe his past actions and the current proposal for a lawfully sited solar farm scheduled for vote only weeks after the election better reflect his true motivation. Too often, folks run for office to accomplish personal goals. Rather than serve the community as a whole, I believe my experience and past accomplishments clearly demonstrate my dedication and service to the entire Hatfield community. Therefore, I ask for your vote on May 21st. Thank you.
First, I would like to thank Mr. Novak for taking the time to record these statements. My name is Jimmy Tarr, and I am seeking the open seat on the planning board. My wife Betsy and I have lived on Prospect Street for the last 36 years, the last 32 of those years in the house we built at 59 Prospect Street on the edge of the Boyle Farm. We were caregivers for 22 of those years for Betsy's elderly mother and quadriplegic brother in the in-law attached apartment. It's part of our house. We raised our 2 daughters here and watched them thrive in Hatfield schools and beyond. Our daughter Jillian Robinson is now on the school committee. We have been some of those proud parents that showed up at every game or school event to support our kids in every endeavor, be it sports or declamations. We spent 16 of those years operating our business, Special Request Catering, and running the food service at the Hatfield American Legion Post, where we met many of you. We started there helping Joe and Rose Mulhern do pizzas after Friday night basketball games and eventually took over the entire food operation. We are fortunate enough to be a part of many of your lives, helping celebrate the good times and commiserate the bad times with you, sometimes on very short notice. We also catered many community and school events at the Legion. We have been local business owners for the past 32 years. It was through this community involvement we truly became active members of Hatfield. I feel like the experiences I've had in town will help me contribute to the planning board and to the town in general. When we first moved to Hatfield, we rented at 10 Prospect Street, and I operated my own logging business with several employees. This helped me gain experience with farm and forest restrictions. I have spent 7 years as a realtor and helping people buy and sell houses and properties here in Western Massachusetts. This has given me extensive experience to the local housing market and the need for affordable housing, and also issues surrounding land development with a focus on farm and forest protections and restrictions of Chapters 61 and 61A. I previously worked on a team that developed an environmentally challenged property in Avon, Connecticut into a beautiful subdivision of large wooded lots with lots of open space. I was also the on-site manager of a raw 6,000-acre tract of timberland in eastern North Carolina for an investment banking company from Hartford, Connecticut. My job entailed everything from building a road through the swamp to dealing with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and their 400 pages of rules regarding development inland and around inland waterways. The Corps of Engineers was the regulatory agency overseeing our project. The Corps of Engineers is the ultimate Conservation Commission. I've also served on several search committees here in Hatfield for both new principals and superintendents for our schools. I spent 2 terms on the board of Hatfield Foundation for Education, 1 year as chairperson. I was also one of the originators of SAC, which supports Smith Academy sports financially outside of the school budget. After spending the last 36 years, more than half of my life, as a resident of Hatfield, and with the coming retirement from our food businesses around the corner, I feel like the time is right for me to step up to the plate and do some volunteering here in Hatfield. I feel that volunteerism is a very important part of living in a small town like ours, where most positions are filled by our residents giving of their own time. I feel that my long history of community involvement, being a local business owner, and my life experiences help make me qualified to work well with others in representing the interests of our town residents on the planning board. I ask for your vote on May 21st. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Slysz. I live at 19 Straits Road, and I'm the candidate for the Hatfield Planning Board. I was appointed to the Planning Board at the end of last year to fill a vacancy left by Rick Bertram, and I'm on the ballot on May 21st to fulfill my term, which ends in 2020. I'm a 4th generation Hatfield resident and a proud product of Hatfield Public Schools. I graduated from Smith Academy as class president and 3rd in my class. I went on to Mount Holyoke College as a 1st generation college student and graduated with a degree in politics and sociology. I'm currently the executive administrator at Represent Us. We're a nonprofit in Florence that's doing nonpartisan work across the country to get big money's influence out of our political system so our government can work for you and your family and not just a handful of special interests and billionaires. In town, I'm the co-founder of the Hatfield Community Garden that's on Billings Way. In 2017, we started the planning process, and last year we had our first growing season, which was really successful. We had over 40 plots being gardened, and we anticipate around that or maybe a few more this year. We're still accepting applications. If anyone's interested in gardening, you can go to hatfieldcommunitygarden.com to learn more. In 2017, my fiance and I bought our house in Hatfield. He also grew up in town and went through Hatfield Public Schools. And he, just like me, farming played a huge part in our lives growing up in Hatfield. He currently is a packing house manager at Atlas Farm in Deerfield. My grandfather was a farmer in town, and my first paid job was picking tobacco for him when I was 12, as is a lot of people who grow up here. I don't think I appreciated it at the time, but I really appreciate now our farming culture and the way we really appreciate our farmland and our heritage here in Hatfield. And our town residents also acknowledge that, as it's noted in our master plan. However, I think we need to be a little more proactive to preserve that way of life. I know there are a lot of pressures to develop and build more homes to create a larger tax base, and in order to create a large tax base without raising taxes. However, studies show that in many cases, or most cases, building the cost to provide the municipal services for these new homes in town actually costs more than the actual taxes that they pay to the town. So it actually doesn't make a lot of sense economically to be building households on our farmland. We should be doing more to preserve our farmland and open space in our way of life to make it a desirable place to live here. A study from UMass came out a couple weeks ago that said cities and towns that prioritize land preservation actually had steadier job growth than cities and towns that did not. And so not only does preserving land make economic sense, it also fits with our master plan and also makes us a desirable place to live and invest and grow our families here. So as your planning board member, I will fight to support our agricultural businesses and work to preserve our open space and farmland. And even though I'm running unopposed, I hope you'll get out to vote and vote for me on Tuesday, May 21st. And I thank you for your time and listening.
Good afternoon. I'm Brian Moriarty, and I'm seeking re-election to the Hatfield School Committee. I have had the honor of serving as a member of the Hatfield School Committee for 18 years. If re-elected, I will continue to work on behalf of all of our students in the Hatfield School District. I believe our school committee must be responsive and receptive to parents, staff, students, and the community at large, encouraging open dialogue. My main focus is on students and what's best to provide a well-rounded education that prepares students for their college or career choices. I know residents expect elected officials to be responsible and thoughtful when making decisions around finances that will ultimately affect everyone in town. In that vein, the school committee must be open and listen to input from all groups and weigh all facts before making decisions. It is sometimes a balancing act, weighing the what we need as a district with the what we would like to have as a district. Some of these decisions can be difficult, even unpopular, but nonetheless, they are decisions we are expected to make as your elected officials. They are decisions I have made during my 18 years on the Hatfield School Committee, and I will continue to make on behalf of our students and of our residents. I bring experience and knowledge of laws and regulations related to education in Massachusetts, experience building sustainable budgets, expanding educational program, and an understanding of the community that I have served for 18 years on both the school committee and time served on the Board of Selectmen. I've built productive relationships with other town officials and staff that serve me well as a member of the school committee, and I look forward to continue working on behalf of students and residents. Here are just a few of the many accomplishments of the school committee during my tenure these last 18 years. Establishment of the Smith Academy High School Band, which has become one of the finest high school bands in the area and the region. The beginning of Hatfield's participation of School of Choice. School choice money has been used to fund capital projects. However, as costs have risen in our operational needs and special education, the district has come to rely heavily on school choice monies to offset district-wide expenses. The construction of the Hatfield Elementary School, providing a state-of-the-art facility for our children to learn and grow. Establishment of virtual high school at Smith Academy, which expands the curriculum for our high school students, offering rich and rigorous academic programming that oftentimes are only found in larger or wealthier districts. Programming that allows our students to be competitive in the college application process with students from larger, wealthier communities. Expansion of before and after programs at the elementary school, including the BOX program, a physical activity program that improves our children physically, mentally, and socially through movement. Building a new, larger band room at Smith Academy and honoring longtime band director Ken Longstreet using School of Choice funds. The creation of a new field hockey field at Smith Academy using CPA and School Choice funds. The refurbishing of the bleachers in Webb Gymnasium, the updated Smith Academy Biology Lab, upgrades to the now state-of-the-art Abarno Library. These projects were in conjunction with the ever-supportive SA, Smith Academy, trustees, and school choice funding. These are just some of the many accomplishments we, as a committee, have been able to achieve with my input over the last 18 years. So what is our future as a district? The biggest long-term challenge for Hatfield School District, in my opinion, is sustainability. As one of the smallest public K-12 districts in the state, how do we continue to financially thrive as a district? One way would be to consolidate or share services where feasible with other districts. The school committee has formed an exploratory group to look at the available research, to consider models for sharing services and operational function with neighboring districts, and to report back on the potential cost-saving opportunities while we continue providing the necessary educational services to our students and remaining as an independent school district. To increase school funding sources, it's important for Hatfield elected officials to fight for every available educational dollar on behalf of our students and teachers, and to have working relationships with our elected state officials, so together we can advocate for more state funding. Along these lines, Superintendent Robert and I, in conjunction with Hatfield teachers, pushed for our Western Mass legislative body to sign on to the bill submitted by Senator Adam Hines, establishing additional funding for rural schools. I'm happy to say that both Representative Sabadosa and Senator Comerford were already aware of the bill and had signed on as co-sponsors. Other Western Mass representatives and senators have also co-sponsored or supported this important piece of legislation. Superintendent Robert and I continue to attend meetings both locally and at the State House to advocate for Hatfield. Last month, I had the honor of attending the superintendent's annual luncheon by the invitation of John Robert. This luncheon included not only Western Mass superintendents, but also many of our Western Mass legislators. We had the good fortune of dining with Representative Sabadosa and discussing our local educational finances. We talked about the rural community legislation, transportation costs to Hatfield, special education costs, and Chapter 70 reimbursement formulas. Lindsay is on board and working with her colleagues at the state level on all of these topics. And on April 18th, I attended a public schools funding update in Northampton, hosted by Senator Joe Comerford. This session was well attended by local school district, and its focus was on updating those in attendance on the state plan for additional aid to cities and towns in the Chapter 70 funding formula, and to answer any questions from those of us in the audience. On May 1st, I will be in Boston to attend the MASC, the Massachusetts Association of School Committees, annual statewide school meeting at the State House, where a wide range of topics will be discussed among school committees and state legislators from throughout the state. Focus this year will undoubtedly be around adequate school funding and transportation reimbursements from the state to the cities and towns to assist with the education of our children. While I, and others, continue fighting for additional state funding for Hatfield schools, we as a school district and as the town as a whole cannot spend funds we do not have. That would be fiscally irresponsible of your elected leaders. Regardless of one's personal feelings, with regards to salaries and benefits for all of our employees, we have a job to do as your elected officials. A job that I have taken to heart and I continue to make decisions on behalf of the students, staff, and townspeople. My unique position of being on both the school committee and the board of selectmen allows the schools to have the strongest advocate on the select board, who has a wealth of knowledge of the financial necessities of our town as a whole and our school department in particular. I understand how the financial decisions of every department in this town affect every other town department. It's time for change is a phrase some of you may have heard batted around these last few weeks. Let me share a few facts with you. We have a 5-member school committee, and the breakdown of years served is as follows. Myself, I have 18 years on the school committee. Kathy Engelhardt has 18 years. Heather Cahill has 4 years. Bridget Rodrigue has 2 years. Jill Robinson has 1 year. So 2 of us combined have 36 years experience, and the other 3 members have a total of 7 years. We all recognize and value experience and knowledge in our teachers who have been dedicated to Hatfield School for many years. I would suggest we should as well in our school committee members, those who choose to commit themselves to serving for the benefit of our children. Since the State Education Reform Bill of 1993 passed, The role of all school committee members and committees as a whole in the state of Massachusetts is this. Our primary responsibilities are to establish the educational vision and goals for the district, approve the budget, establish policies for the district, hire and evaluate the superintendent, and serve as the employer of record for collective bargaining. The implementation and achievement of these goals lies with the superintendent and the administrative team. If promises and suggestions are being made contrary to this, they simply aren't correct. Let me again repeat exactly what school committees and its members' duties are for Hatfield. Establish vision and goals for the district. Approve the annual school committee budget. Establish district policies. Hire and evaluate the superintendent, and serve as the employer of record for collective bargaining. So, while we as a committee do have conversations and offer our input to our administrators, ultimately, educational and curriculum decisions are the responsibility of our educational professionals, as they should be. Now more than ever, we need to have experienced representatives on the school committee. We are facing significant changes within the school district. Having experience and institutional knowledge is vital during these transitions. Among the changes are the hiring of a principal at Smith Academy, a superintendent and special education director in 2020 upon the retirement of John Robert, and possible other administrative changes we may face over the next few years. Hiring the superintendent is the biggest decision the committee makes on behalf of our entire town. That individual will steer the educational ship for us into the future. I've been part of that decision-making in the past and understand how to conduct a search that includes input from all stakeholders. One of my proudest moments over the years was the hiring of Superintendent John Robert 10 years ago. As chairman of the school committee at the time, it was my responsibility and pleasure to make the call to John, advising him of our committee's selection. What a home run the Superintendent Robert has been for our schools and for our town. Here is what I believe is compelling to voters. Are the schools in the district better off today than they were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 18 years ago? I certainly believe they are. Do we need to continue moving forward and looking for new improved ways to continue our successes and not be complacent with our past accomplishments? Yes. Do we need to always continue to evaluate past practices and procedures for educating our children and make necessary changes for students' continued success? Of course. Does the district need to continue to work with administrators, teachers, and staff on fair compensation reviews that are within our school's yearly budgets? Absolutely. And not just for the school department, but for all of our town employees. In closing, I would like to thank you, the Hatfield voters, for taking time to watch this broadcast. I would hope you believe that experience really does matter as we continue to move our district forward into the near and distant future, and will consider casting your vote for me on May 21st. It will be an honor to continue to serve the residents of Hatfield as a school committee member. I would also like to thank John Novak for his continued service in making sure the townspeople have access to these programs and the many meetings and events taking place in Hatfield throughout the year. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Danielle Stanisewski, and I'm running for a seat on the Hatfield School Committee. I want to first thank Mr. Novak for putting together this candidate forum and for the opportunity to share with you a little about myself and why I'm running for school committee. I grew up in a small town, much like Hatfield, in Somers, Connecticut. After high school, I attended Western New England College, where I received my bachelor's degree in business management and communications in 2006. While in college, I met my husband, Jonathan. He's richly rooted here in Hatfield with his family business. We looked at a lot of places before settling in Hatfield in 2012, when our firstborn, Brooke, had turned 1. Since then, we have had 2 other children, Faith and Johnny. All are in the Hatfield school system. Brooke is in 1st grade. Faith and Johnny are in preschool. Next year, Faith will move on to kindergarten, as Johnny has 1 more year left in preschool. Before having kids, and up until my youngest was born, my career led me to Big Y. I started there in the training program in 2007 and was quickly promoted to department manager. I managed in several different locations,
including Northampton, Greenfield, Westfield, and Southampton. I made the difficult decision to step down after my youngest child was born. My job is now to stay at home and care for our 3 young children, which, by the way, was the best decision. This leads me to the present. My family is very active both in the schools and recreation programs. I personally am a co-leader for our Daisy and Brownie Girl Scout troop. We have 23 girls ranging between kindergarten and 3rd grade. I also serve on the Recreation Committee and the Hatfield Elementary School Council. I feel very passionate about giving these kids the tools to grow up to be kind, compassionate, and hardworking adults. It's our job as a community to show them the way. Because of my extensive involvement and my ability to listen, I really feel like I am a voice for the parents, the teachers, and students of this community. There are several reasons I feel I would make a great school committee member. First, I'm very passionate about our school systems and providing the best for our children. I think that, especially in this day and age, their social and emotional development is critical. And how we handle that as a community is also very important. So I intend on fully supporting programs and policies geared toward our children's social emotional health. Second, I am extremely motivated to continue to research and educate myself on the best educational programs the country has to offer. I also intend on seeing that we as a town are opening this up to our children. We may be small, but we are a mighty little town, and we do deserve the best. Finally, I am eager to make sure that everything and anything we do as a school committee decide to be the best interest of our current and future students and children. In closing, my career, my involvement in the schools, my passion for helping others, and wanting this town to be the best that it can be makes me an excellent candidate for school committee. This is why I'm asking for your vote on May 21st. Thank you.
Hello, Hatfield residents. I'm Diana Szynal, and I'm very pleased to be running for Select Board. I moved to Hatfield when I was about 13 years old. With the exception of a few years while I was in college, I've lived here ever since. My husband Jim and I live on Straits Road with our 3 children, Peter, Henry, and Hadley. I am a proud 1985 graduate of Smith Academy. I worked for the town as clerk to the Select Board back in the 1990s. I was elected to serve on the Select Board for 2 terms, from 2000 to 2006. For 3 of those years, I was selected chair by my colleagues. I also served on the Historical Commission, the Finance Committee, the Emergency Planning Committee, the Fire Truck Committee of 2000, and was previously the town representative for the collective bargaining with the Teachers Union. I was co-chair of Hatfield's 325th Committee in 1995, and I'm a current member of the 350th Committee. Personally, I am the executive director of the Franklin County Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber is almost 400 members strong, and we are dedicated to strengthening and sustaining the economic and civic vitality of our region. Before beginning work with the Chamber, I spent 16 years as the district director to the late state representative Peter Kokot. Those years with Rep. Kokot gave me a sound understanding of state government and procedures. I also spent many years working for a municipal attorney and served on statewide working groups for elected officials. I decided to run this year because I felt like it was a great time to offer Hatfield my years of experience at both the municipal and state levels. My priorities on the Select Board will be to build strong relationships with department heads and committees and to move towards better use of town-owned buildings and land. Specifically, I would like to explore the possibility of a better space for our Council on Aging. I am committed to making sure that Hatfield remains a competitive employer and is able to retain the great employees we have in all our departments. I will make sure that our budgets remain responsible while ensuring that town residents are getting the vital services that they need. I will always have the interests of our local farmers at heart and will strive to maintain our unique character while we balance necessary changes and growth. I believe that the measure of true leadership is the ability to foster collaboration and cooperation. I believe that working with department heads and employees improves the quality of services in town. And I believe that Hatfield is a town worth fighting for. I ask for your vote so that I can once again serve this beautiful community.
This concludes the candidates' statements. Remember, annual town meeting is Tuesday, May 14th at 7 p.m. sharp in Smith Academy. Please attend, as this is your town. And voting at the polls takes place Tuesday, May 21st. Please mark your calendars. Thanks for watching.